1857, the British Parliament understood the importance of reinforcing its control in India. Hence, in 1858, the Government of India Act was passed. As per the Act, India came under the direct rule of the British, and as a promise, the British Empire agreed to remain strictly impartial and not interfere in social and religious matters of India. The Act also helped in establishing an administrative structure in India. The Viceroy was given the highest authority and was advised by an executive council. The first Viceroy of British India was Lord Canning. In 1859, a new revolution started to take shape in the form of peasant revolts in the eastern parts of the country. The peasants of Bengal had begun protesting against the forced plantation of the indigo crop. These riots forced the British government to appoint an indigo commission to investigate the issue. Many planters from the lower Bengal region had to shift to Bihar too. Similarly, the whole of India was suffering from the British rule. In the urban areas, the middle class had started developing a sense of patriotism through the influence of Western education, the Indian Renaissance, and the growing print culture. They sought education and realized that the imperial rule was severely exploiting India's economy. This and the lack of representation in the government prompted them to participate in the regional movements across the country actively. In 1861, Lord Canning enacted the Indian Councils Act, which allowed the Indians into the Executive Council. Even though Indians were nominated to the council, they had no statutory provisions to bring change as they were non-official members. Further, the British government noticed the rise in nationalism and enforced repressive measures like the Vernacular Press Act of 1878 to curb the spread of nationalist thoughts in the vernacular newspapers. While many protested against such laws, slowly the nationalists learned that building a united front could pressure the British government. And against this backdrop, many nationalists tried forming political associations such as the Indian League, the East India Association, etc. But none of them were able to launch a united front against the British exploitation of India. One of the most prominent associations was the Indian National Congress. It was established by A.O. Hume, a retired English civil servant, along with other Indian nationalists in 1885 at Bombay. And this session was presided by W.C. Banerjee. The association there onwards met every year in December in different parts of the country to discuss the political and administrative plan for the upcoming year. The establishment of Congress is considered a crucial point in Indian history as it led the foundation of the Indian national movement. From 1885 to 1905, the majority of the Congress followed the moderate approach. The Congress leaders during this period believed in constitutional agitation within the confines of the law. Their two-pronged approach aimed at first creating a strong awareness and public opinion among Indians by awakening their consciousness and united them. Second, it also aimed to persuade the British public and the government to introduce reforms in India. One of the demands of the INC was the reformation of the Legislative Council and elections. And as a result, the Indian Councils Act of 1892 took shape. It increased the number of additional members in the imperial and provincial legislative councils, but maintained an official majority in them. So, it didn't seem satisfactory to Congress. Meanwhile, the British decided to take some administrative steps to curb the spread of nationalism in its crown jewel, that was Bengal. In 1905, Viceroy Lord Curzon publicly shared his plan to partition Bengal. And on 16th October 1905, Lord Curzon executed the partition of Bengal despite the opposition by Indian nationalists. As per the British government, this was a step for administrative convenience. But the Indian nationalists, they recognized this was divide and rule policy of the British, as the partition divided Bengal into Hindu majority Western Bengal and Muslim majority Eastern Bengal. Leaders like Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose had played an important role in protesting against the partition. From 1905, a new set of leaders had a dominant influence in Congress. These leaders are referred to as assertive nationalists or extremists who led the nationalist movement between 1905 and 1918. Congress even launched the Swadeshi and boycott movements which aimed to make India self-reliant by promoting Swadeshi goods and boycotting British manufactured goods. Congress sought a radical change in its approach at this point. Under the presidency of Dadabhai Naoroji, Congress believed that they had to take direct political action and challenge the British authority to achieve Swaraj. Amidst this backdrop, there also emerged another group of nationalists who opposed the British, the revolutionaries. The revolutionaries believed in the use of violence to overthrow the British rule. Bengal, Maharashtra, Punjab, and parts of South India became the centers of such activities. Meanwhile, most of the upper and middle class Muslims of East Bengal supported partition as it enabled them to gain majority representation. To this end, in 1906, they formed the All India Muslim League under initial leadership of Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka, along with Nawabs Mohsinul Mulk and Waqarul Mulk, and demanded separate electorates. By 1907, the moderate and the assertive nationalists argued about the direction of the nationalist movement and methods to be undertaken against the British. And this resulted in the split of Congress party in the Surat session. The British responded to the Swadeshi movements and the split with lathi charges and detention, due to which the Swadeshi movement declined by 1908. Further, in 1909, Lord Minto, the Viceroy, and Secretary of State John Morley worked out a plan to gain support of the moderates and the Muslims. This plan is widely known as the Morley-Minto reforms. Through these proposed reforms, Indians were allowed to participate in the Legislative Council elections on limited franchise, while also providing a separate electorate for the Muslims. It also planned to expand the Legislative Council to include more elected Indians. Finally, in 1911, the partition of Bengal was annulled on account of revolutionary activities, and the capital of British India was moved from Calcutta to Delhi. During World War I, revolutionary activities broke out yet again in favor of Indian independence. The Ghadar Party, established in 1913 in Oregon, USA, actively participated in armed revolutionary activities from 1914 to 1917 in Punjab. Back in India, nationalists such as Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Annie Besant launched the Home Rule League of their own to demand self-government within the British Commonwealth and educate everyone on policies through newspapers, public meetings, and other such means. But gradually, this faded in 1919 due to lack of proper organization, communal riots, the arrest of Annie Besant, and many other reasons. After fizzling out of the Home Rule League, a new phase emerged in the nationalist movement, the Gandhian phase.